Generic greetings and welcome to Praxis. Today's beverage is a nice cup of coffee, black, no sugar, the perfect spacefaring beverage, which is good because that's what you'll be doing in this game, along with a lot of other space stuff, which includes, but is not limited to, mining, building, fighting, and hopefully not exploding, we should probably add on the end of that sentence. Either way, welcome to Praxis. This is another Introversion prototype as part of the Crystallay's Fail Masterclass, a series of game prototype and video releases where they detail what they've been working on, what worked, what didn't work, and I guess ultimately why they shelved the project for whatever reason or reasons. This is, I believe, number 8 in that series, and I've covered the other ones in the past, so I thought I would check this one out. Now, as per the other ones, this is not a sponsored video. This is something I've bought in for myself, for my own curiosity, but I don't mind signal boosting the cause because all proceeds do go to War Child. So links in the description for the store page and also the video from Introversion with Chris and Mark explaining basically what the game is and why they didn't progress on with it. But I'm just going to show you a little bit of Praxis, and obviously we can get a little bit of discussion going as to maybe what this game could have been. So over to new game, and I'll show you a little bit of it. So obviously we are in space because it's an Introversion prototype. Of course we're in space. That's the that's a sort of in-joke, isn't it, that most of the prototypes are in space. Actually, I don't know if most of them are, but certainly a lot of them. So we're in this little pod thing, and it's important that we detail what the pod is and what it can do because we'll be spending a lot of our time in here. So at the front of the pod, we have our modes. Currently we're on the selection mode, but you can use the number keys to switch between selection mode, mining mode, and the build mode, and that will change these screens on the left and right as well. We'll come to the modes later on. On the left-hand side, we have the mission manager. So we've got things like rescue civilian scientists, escort a convoy, mine raw materials. You can refresh that and, you know, get different ones as well, so there's a fair few of them in there. I don't know if they're randomly generated or what, but yeah, we've got different missions here, and we'll check those out in a moment. At the back of the ship, at the rear, we have our pod refinery on the left, and if we look down, we can see the refinery there, and then our pod fabricator on the right, and you can make things like mechanisms and such. And we'll come to that in a moment. And then from the right-hand side of the pod, the starboard side, we have our ratings, which is split between combat, humanitarian, and industrial, and that changes based on the missions that we complete, or even just semi-complete, and then the money that we have. So currently we have 10 generic units of currency, and we use that money to buy blueprints and recipes, which we will check out in a moment. So what do we need to do? Well, it all revolves, in my opinion, around the mission manager. So we need to build things and build ships in order to complete certain missions. So I'm just going to refresh it a couple of times to see if we can get any missions that is about combat, but is only difficulty 2, because anything higher than that may be a little bit problematic. It's all rescue ship's crew. It's not bringing up any more. Is it just working from the top? Escort convoy. Let's just keep going. Convoy, rescue stranded workers, mine raw materials, standard workers. Yeah, there's no. All these missions are for some reason at rating 2 or 3. Ah, there we go. So destroy a pirate gang. A small number of pirate gang members are hiding out and planning to strike nearby targets soon. Root them out and destroy them all before they become a problem. If we complete that, we gain 4 generic units of currency. So I'm going to accept that. And we can jump to the mission, but that would be bad because this thing is unarmed. We do have a laser, but it is a mining laser, so not going to work quite well against the pirates. Anyway, so speaking of mining, let's work on that. So we need to make something in order to defeat these pirates, so we need a gunship of some kind. So let's see if we can work on that. So how would we do it? Well, firstly we need some raw materials. So I'm going to switch to the mining mode, and our pod now gets this laser on the right hand side and this sort of grabber on the left. It's sort of a vacuum type thing, and when you mouse over some of the stuff that's floating, you can see that it will slowly start to be attracted to this thing here. Now everything in the world is like physically simulated. That's the best way I can put it. So it's all physics based, so you can see we can actually bat into it as well. So immediately you've got a sort of tie to the world because you can slam into everything. You can hit into this, and luckily the pod is quite tough. There's a little astronaut for Scalar who is immune to mining and apparently immune to getting hit as well, but there you are. Anyway, I'm going to use our mining laser to start mining on the right hand side. It shows you on the left what it is, so we are using the mining laser to hit the metallic minerals node there, and that's what it's picking up. And on the right hand side it shows us our pod inventory, and we are gaining these materials. Similar thing for these materials up here as well, and this is a silicate crystal mode, and we're just mining away and gathering these resources. There is, however, another way of I was about to say mining, but I think the proper term would be gathering resources, and that's to use a little bit of ultraviolence. You can slam your pod into the resources here and then pick them up like that. Obviously, a lot of them are going to go drifting off into space because, well, it's a little bit more aggressive than perhaps other mining techniques, but there you are. So we just keep slamming into that. I can imagine our pod having to... imagine Praxis slowly going up there, little spider cracks just going all the way up and around the pod. Yes, either way, that is our minerals there, and I've just bathed that out the way. So what can we do with that? Well, we can obviously refine them. I thought you'd probably see that one coming, so we can say refine metallic minerals, and the inputs are metallic minerals. We currently have 32, and each one of them gives us 5 metal. And what can we do with the metal? Well, as you might imagine, we can use the fabricator to craft more advanced stuffs, in this case mechanisms. So it takes 2 metal, which we have 15 of, and we produce mechanisms, and there we go. We've got a 3D printer with an additive process, and we're just making these things, so pretty good. So if we wanted to do, say, a ship, then we could go over to building, and let's say get a frame. So place a frame there, and let's just start building a space frame. I should point out at the start here, or I should have done at the start, that the way to fly around is WS and D to move forward, back, left, right, Q and E to go up and down, and then sort of curly brackets to pitch left and right. I would actually prefer Q and E to do that, and then space and shift to go up and down, but that's not what it is, so I guess I'll have to just put up and shut up. Anyway, the only reason I prefer that is because that's what I had in a lot of other like sort of 4x flight models, and also 6x flying games, and also Gary's Mod Space Build. That's what this reminds me of for whatever reason. So what I'm going to do is build my gunboat, for the lack of a better term. It's going to be a very, very basic affair. So I've made a frame here, and in fact, you know what? I want to alter the frame. I want to cut this out, and you can see the mining laser is able to just cut these off. And if I take that thing out the back, will I be able to push that out of the way? No, it is actually still connected there. When you get damage and such, it can split the ship in half, so yeah, you have to bear that in mind. Anyway, I'm just going to make the ship a little bit longer, like so. That'll do for about that one there, I think. Is that right? No, I was right in the first time. I need to go up to there and then put on this rear section like so. And there we are. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to put a couple extra bits on the side, because why not? Is it looking like anything in particular? Not really. Let me just put in one there and one there for reasons, and it reminds me of making things from Galaxy Trucker, which is, yeah, very sort of blocky like this as well. And I'm going to put a big pod on there, and it's going to look like, I don't actually have a clue what it's going to look like, but it's weed from the top. Anyway, let's just go over to this side, and I'll put this on. You can see it's pretty easy to fly around and place things. You can rotate in your pod holding middle mouse, and when you hold right click, you can spin your pod round. And this is still in the world. I mean, I can bat into it and it will sort of push it around and such, so yeah, you have to be careful of that. So there is the basis for our vessel, and I'm going to arm this thing and put on things to make it move. So I'm going to go actually back to behind me. I'm going to stop producing the mechanisms there, and I'm going to stop producing that, and I'm going to start to refine the silica crystals, because I need to build an FCC, which is the flight control computer. It requires minerals and control circuits. I currently don't have any, but I can make some control circuits like that, so we are cracking on to produce that. But just for the sake of ease, and this is obviously a brief tutorial, I'm going to press F1 and go to give myself some materials, and that should give us all the materials we need. It did not do any of that. I think I have to be in this one. Give materials, there we go. So we now have more in our inventory that it can actually store, but we've cheated and give ourselves some stuff. It just gives us a fighting chance to be able to, like I say, show what there is to offer with this prototype. Anyway, over to this, and let's go for the FCC, and the front. What's going to be classed as the front of the ship is the big blue line. So I'm going to place that there, and then we have our flight computer. And now on the top right, we have our pod and the world structure, which you might be able to rename, but I'm not too sure. If I click on that, it would try to go towards it, and we'd be able to look through the camera, but there currently isn't a camera. But it does show on the bottom right what it's made out of. So we've got parts, mass, thrust, torque, etc. So let's continue and build the rest of it. So I want to place in some engines because that will help make it move generally. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm also going to place an engine on the front here and the front here. It's not, as far as I'm aware, a full like 4x flight model, as in you need thrusters front, back, left, right, and on the top. But I'm just going to place more of these engines all over the place just to give it a lot of maneuverability. And there you go. So those some engines in. Obviously we need to make this thing move, so we probably need some reactors. So I'm going to place a reactor in there and in there. And if I just switch over to this thing, it says we're using 65 power out of 60. So already I can tell that we need a lot more power. So let's do that. Over to building then, and to our reactor. I'm going to place 1, 2 more. I'm also going to place a hyperdrive just behind there, like so. I can't actually place it there. Let's just go back, and that will go there. And I like the lights, very colourful thing. Yeah, it's very nice. And let's just place a camera as well so we can actually fly this thing. So again, the blue line denotes the front there. And I think we're going to put some lasers on. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think we'll also go 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, that would be bad because we won't be able to see where we're going. Let me just cut this thing up. And I'm just going to grab all these materials. Some of them are flying off into the cosmos. And, oh, I don't think we're able to pick them up because we're full. Okay, well, there's a problem I've never experienced before. Let me just cut the front of this thing off because it's not necessary. And what I'll do instead is go to building here and just push these out of the way. And you can see they all fly off. We're going to go for a shield generator. I'm going to put a shield generator probably, I think, just in here should be fine. You know what we'll do, actually? It'll probably be better if I place some... I'll put some lasers on the back there. It's actually not really a gunship. It's more of just a flat plane with these guns on the top. And that's actually a big problem with the game, but we'll come back to that later on. I'm just going to mine out this camera if I can. Yeah, and we did actually manage to get that camera. So back to a shield generator. I'll put the shield generator there, and then I'll finally put the camera probably just in front of it, and then eventually that'll get power, and you can see that it charges up and we get this pill shape around it. So that is now in. So we can go to this thing, and we have this ship, and I've immediately spotted a problem, and that's because everything that's on the ship is shown on the left-hand side, so small engine all the way along. And the reason that's there is so you can turn them off. So if you, for example, lose a couple of reactors in combat, you go, oh, actually, here's a big problem. I can quickly switch off some engines and we get some stuff back. That's, that's a good thing. The bad thing is that in this prototype, the stuff goes off the screen. So I should probably do something about that. And sadly, the only way I can probably work around that is by just removing some of the engines. So I'm just going to remove some engines on here. It shouldn't matter much, apart from, it'll be a little bit slower, a little bit less maneuverable, but that should suffice. And then we'll go back to this thing, and yes, we can still fly around, and it's not overly maneuverable, but you can see I can fly around, and I'm just holding right click and spinning around. So there we go. That is our thing now in. Obviously we can rotate the camera, we can see these guns, and I think it's time we do a bit of combat. So because I've already selected a mission, it's showing on the bottom right, jump to mission, so we can do that. Also, this is us flying around in our Star Child pod here. And what if we just push him off into space? That would be bad. Anyway, let's go ahead and we'll jump to the mission. So, as far as I can tell, it is, I don't know if it's randomly generated or whatever, but the things do change. The backgrounds, and sometimes you're in a gas cloud or a nebula. Sometimes you've got, is that... Oh, hang on, wait. Which is me? Oh, I was going to say, that is that's our bit of the ship there. I love all the different colours on this. It's all primitive stuff, but it's quite pretty in its own way. Anyway, that's the other solar body there. Right, so we can see on the right-hand side, we have these fighters, and we can see they are... On the right-hand side there, it says 4,000 meters away. On the top left shows us our objectives. 0 enemies destroyed, 0%, and 3 enemies remain, so we need to destroy them. What I'm going to do first is turn on auto fire for all of our small laser turrets, and then I'm going to basically press pause. The general rule is that you pause it while you're doing this, so it's like a tactical pause where we can command all of this, and then I'm going to select the closest target, which is that one there. And what will happen is these will now track. So you can see we now have them locked onto the fast fighter. They have a lock and they have the distance. If I'm like turning for like that, for example, you can see they have a tracking speed. So they might go out of arc for whatever reason. In fact, if I rotate the ship around, you'll notice that some of them then won't be in arc at all because they're on like the other side and they'll be firing through their own ship. So you can see, yeah, I can't actually track them because I've not got the gun depression to do that. So yeah, not only do you have to worry about where you place these, but also if the ships are really fast and they're getting close, then they may not have the tracking speed to track that. And speaking of speed, they are actually quite quick, these things. I mean, to be fair, they are called fast fighters, so you would sort of expect that. Right, so I'm heading towards the target. Sadly, it's going to take me quite a while. I'm currently at 20% throttle, but if I hold shift, I'll go to 100% throttle and my velocity increases. Now, I think they're going to go behind this... I don't know what it is, planet or moon, and it is solid. You can crash into it. I have tried. There's no atmosphere there. I thought, oh, maybe there's like a little thing where you can go through the atmosphere, but well, apparently not, or at least not the one I tried. So we can see that they are still tracking these, which is pretty good. And I'm just going to try and get near them. Just basically start, you know. So I started blasting. You know, insert meme here. So. And that is the objective. We are at velocity 59, so it looks like we've reached terminal velocity. You do have a terminal velocity in this. You can't just keep going and going and going and you know, until you can't slow down anymore. There's also no fuel and no ammo for these weapons, but I think the miniguns and the rockets do have ammo. They have now gone red on the top right, which means they have detected me and locking on, and there goes our shot. So as soon as we get within a certain distance, we start shooting, and there you go. Also, you can see they're shooting back, and now they are engaging me, but obviously they're fast, so I'm having to lead the target, or should I say the lasers are automatically leading the target. Alright, so yeah, as it's maneuvering, we are able to lead that. Obviously if it changes direction and changes orientation, then it may prove problematic for us, but what I'm trying to do is just get in close, and that will hopefully be able to take them out. So I'm just trying to obviously keep the whole ship pointed so all of our guns can fire, and I'm basically not doing anything against it. There's nothing much I can really do, sadly, because it's so fast, and we're not taking any damage, I should point out, because we let me just pause it for a moment. We're not taking any damage because of our shields, so our shields are absorbing that, but it doesn't look like they have any. I'm tempted just to switch targets, you know, just to see what would happen. So I'm going to switch targets to that fighter there, and then unpause it, and let's see if we track on that one. And we did, and oh, it looks like the shots missed again. So it's not working out, is it? It's oh, there was a good hit. So we've taken out part of their ship already. This is good. It looks like a big chunk came off their ship. What I may do is pause it there and once again select these turrets and change the targets, because if we keep changing the targets, I think some of them are being a little bit I wouldn't say careless, but yeah, they're certainly not maneuvering as much as you would expect. And that one's just been hit again, and yes, good hits. And you can see, as we hit it, it does move. You know, the actual explosion and impact is simulated there. We're down to 15% shield, so we may actually take some damage here. I'm just trying to get underneath it, and yeah, we're missing again. So what I'm going to do is spin around and pause it, and once again change the target, just to keep them on the toes there. Hopefully I'll be able to take out, which fighter is that? That one. Unpause it here, and then the Inspectors. Oh, good hit. Good hit. I love the Tron-esque laser trails as well. The engine trails, they're really good. And it's also not just pretty, it gives you an idea of where they've went from and are going to. So there you are. And oh, there's really good hits there. Sadly, we are obviously taking hits. Now this is totally unarmored, as in we are just the standard flat blocks, and we've put a shield generator on it. If it wasn't for the shield generator, we would have been dead a long time ago. I'm just randomly rotating here just to see if we can get a better shot, and obviously I'm not moving, so you know we're not really presenting ourselves ideally. I'm going to go for that one there, that fast fighter, and then we'll zip close in because it's got a constant bearing that hopefully we can fire on, and nah, missed again. These fast fighters are, I find, quite problematic, but that just turned just the right angle there. Come Come on, we should have a good shot here. And no, it's not working out. Okay, I'm going to return home. There is no like spool up or cool down for the jump drive. You just, you immediately go, which I do think is not ideal. I would like to have it so you have to spool the drive up, or you have a limited uses or whatever. But anyway, when we've come back, you notice that we have a mega ship here, and I don't know why it's just turned up, but we can go over to that, and it is quite a big vessel. It's also got this artificial gravity spinny ring thing on it. It looks fairly cool, and also looks like to be life support systems, because it's got these habitats at the front and all of the walkways, these tubes to have I was going to say human crew, but, well, crew of some kind. Anyway, I'm going to go back to our pod, and I'm going to cheat, because we can. So I could spend a lot of time building some more ships, and, we could spend a couple of hours building ships and stuff, but the whole point is this is just to show you the sort of things that you may have been expected to build. So I'm just going to, once again, press F1 and go to give money and also give ships. There we go. Speaking of, before we look at the ships though, speaking of building things, obviously I give myself some resources, so it's not ideal to say constantly just use our pod to build especially bigger ships. That's just not going to work out. So that's why you can automate your mining process. So I could say place frames on here like this, and that will do. And you can see it's very easy to place all of these, and yeah, I appreciate that. And we can go for, say, a mining rig. We'll unlock that. We can purchase it with money, which is why you can do missions. And we can put a miner on there. We can put a reactor on there. And you can see this is now going to mine. So that's exactly what it'll do, which it means you can find asteroids and find essentially resource nodes and then build anything you need to build on here to gather the materials, and then by extension build refineries and that sort of thing, and have this economy going. Over to, once again, the purchasing screen here, and I want to purchase, where would it be? We've got gas collectors, small missile launchers. I want to go for a armor plate's pretty good, but we're going to go for a small silo and a drone tower, yeah. So we would use that to basically have, say, a drone tower can go there and a silo will go back there, and we can go to selection mode and we can select anything here and it'll tell us something about it. So there is, for example, the drone there, and it has drone workers 20 of 20. There's our inventory of the miner. It only has an inventory of 50, so that's why I've placed this here. This is our what is it, just a silo, and I can say, right, well, metallic minerals, I can say always have 10 there, so it's going to pick up from here and make sure that this always has 10. However, we don't want to do that. We can also hold shift to put it to increase it by 100, or hold control to put it by a lot more. And if we get close as well, I think does it swarm towards us? If we had resources, it would swarm towards us as well. I don't know if there's going to be a priority system in the game, as in if we get close, you'd be able to set ourselves to be the highest priority. I don't know whether or not that would be a thing, but there you are. Anyway, it looks like I can't... I'm just trying something out here. Oh, that's a shame. I was gathering these resources here, but I can't pick it up because my pod is so full. So what I was going to do is gather it and then push it over here, and then hopefully that collected it, but sadly it did not. What do we have in our inventory, actually? What do we have? We have a lot of stuff. I've got precious ore and precious metals. What I'm going to do is... do we have precious ore? Yeah, precious ore, precious metals, and it should... Is it not going to pick up from us? Sadly not. And semiconductors... and scrap metal. If we just say for this one here, scrap metal, where is it? Scrap metal, like that. No. Sometimes the drones will be picking up from our ship, but it might just be because I've overloaded it. But anyway, that's, as you can imagine, what you would be able to do in terms of mining. So increase your mining yield by building lots of miners on these asteroids, and then you could extend that to refineries and then fabricators and the whole sort of back end of you know, an economy to then build ships. So speaking of ships, we also have some more. We've got this gunboaty type thing here. We have, oh, that's called, this is the gunship here, and it literally has guns and lasers. We'll come back to that. We have this thing which is just called ship. We have a mining barge here, and this is similar to what I just mentioned earlier, actually, about how you could mine things. So this is a fully complete system. So this is a full solution for mining and refining. There's our miners there. We would park it so that the resources are in that hole. These would mine it, that we passed on to these refineries, and then we'd store it in the back. So you can get the idea of having to go somewhere and mine stuff. And then over here is a civilian transport. So I want to just crack on and obviously defeat the enemies. So I'm going to try and get this gunship here. This gunship is similar to what we've made. It's actually got lots of armor on it though. You can see all of this armor plate here. So mine just had these bits, which is not ideal, but this has got some armor plates. It doesn't, however, have many engines, so it's very slow, and also doesn't have reactors. So I'm going to place 2 reactors on it, and that will hopefully power it up. And I'm also going to place probably some more. Do we need more engines? I think so. I'm going to place an engine on there and an engine on there. Alright, and then we're going to go over to the gunship, and it rotates around, it seems to work, and it flies. Okay, so we're going to jump to the mission, and obviously the enemies are over there. In this case, I'm going to put all of these on auto fire like so, and I'm just going to use our auto cannons, and these do have ammo there, so it's important to understand that. And then these are going to track, and I'm then going to head towards the target. This thing also has some this also has shields, so we should be fine. Power usage is 50 of 60, so if we do lose a reactor, that could be problematic at best. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm trying to put it so that these guns are able to essentially broadside this thing when I get close, because this is going to try and come and swarm towards us. Now I should point out that these guns are a little bit loud. I will try and normalise the sound, but prepare for noise. And also prepare for ultimate destruction of the fighters, because these miniguns are amazing. And it takes a bit of time to spool up, but... oh, these things are so good. Battlestar Galactica wants its flak back. Right. That's those defeated. The Tron light cycles are now destroyed. Speaking of destruction, we can go ahead and we can see that there is wreckage remaining. So I'm just heading towards this thing. In fact, you know what? I'm probably not heading, because that was heading that way at whatever speed, and it's going to continue on until it leaves. But trust me that the wreckage does remain, and I can imagine that maybe in, you know, future builds, if it was to be progressed on, oh, there we go, you'd be able to then salvage some parts from this. But yeah, you can see what's left of it, and well, there's not much left at all. But yes, it would be nice to say salvage parts from this thing, but you can see the damage we've caused. And again, this is in the world. We can bat into it. Hang on, let's just see if we can get closer. And it's sort of spiraling out of control. But yeah, you can belt into it and break it, and more bits fall off and such, and you can see there's bits flying. Anyway, we're going to return home, and we will go back to our pod, and I think we will then end the mission, and that's it done. We're going to now try to rescue the stranded workers, so we'll accept that, and this time we will need to use... what will we need to use? We'll need to use this transporter here, so I'm just going to zip over to it. These ships have, I think, been built before reactors were added, because none of them have reactors, but I'm just going to place 1, 2... actually, that's not reactors. Those are engines. 1, 2, and then 3. There we are. And we'll go to reactors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm also going to place engines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's go over to the... where is it? Transporter. We've got enough power, and it still handles... well, not very good, let's put it that way. Okay, so we've now come to this mission, and we're in either a nebula or some sort of gaseous body, and there is... I don't know what that is. Is that... is there a way to zoom? Yeah. Is that a black hole? I don't know what that is. It's not... is it a pulsar? No, I don't think it's a pulsar. Either way, it's quite pretty. It's quite bright, if nothing else. So, where is our asteroid that we have to find? So, it says we have to find a small asteroid base, and... I'm looking around, but I ain't seeing it. Can't see the wood for trees. I'm going to click on it and it'll teleport us over there. And it's here. Okay. Back to the transporter then. So it is there. Good. Right, so let's head down. So I'm just going to hold shift and I'm going down. And what I'm looking for is their docking port. And I can see it. It's sticking out about there. So that's where we need to get to. So let's just head over there. So, going across, heading down, and lining up as best I can at the moment with the docking port. And this is where we get a lot of help from the game in lining this thing up. Traditionally, you may have problems gauging the lining of this up. A lot of games give you a good amount of leeway in order to line these. But the way this game works, I'm just going to rotate the camera there, middle mouse, is when we get close, we get a hologram. That's the locking crosshair, and this shows us our... essentially shows us where we are in terms of our alignment. So we need to make sure that the diamond is in the centre of this, and also that the lines are crossed. So we'll go up to there. Put the diamond in the centre. Alright. Then head towards it. So, vertically, we're about fine. But the ship does need to rotate a bit. And this is where I start struggling with the controls under pressure. Have to rotate that up. And we can see, it looks like we're close, but we're actually well off. Just wait until we stop. And rotate it that way. And rotate it that way. No, that way. Which means backing up slightly. Rotating that way. And that should be a lock. It's close enough for government work. Clunk! And then what happens is all the civilians on the left-hand side are now transporting to us. We have 34 waiting to rescue, and you can see how many in transit there, and just loading it up in habitation. We can use the numpads keys to see where they are, and we've got these like robot-y type fellas, and well, at least we're moving. So there we go. We have got those, so I'm going to detach, and we can fly off and return home, and that's exactly what we'll do. Oh, actually returned home and then went back. As I said, there's no way to, you don't have to spool the drive up or wait for it to cool down or whatever. And there we go. We can go over to our pod and then to our end mission, and we gain some money. If I was, say there's 100 people to rescue and I only rescued, say, 50 of it, we would still gain some payment. We've also gained some humanitarian points, which some of them, like for example this one, it says an insufficient humanitarian ranks. So as we rank up, we get access to bigger and better missions. Okay, so I think that is fairly representative of what you can expect with Praxis. And you can see all this debris. All of this is all of these are resources just floating around there. So obviously it's a prototype, and it's a prototype that has been noted to, well, in the developer's words, not work. So, it's hard to give any sort of critique or analysis on this one. And I haven't really played enough. I played for about maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours of the prototype. So, haven't really played enough to give any sort of analysis on it, but just sort of my 2 cents, as it were. I think the reasons why they described this not being valid or not being a viable project for continuation is that the building is very well, firstly the good things. The flight model, very fun, very easy, very responsive. All of the simulated stuff with everything flying around is like really engaging and sort of drags you into the actual world, because it's all physically here, and yeah, it just feels nice. It just flying around feels nice, so that's good. The mods and selecting and building, all that's just there. It works, and being able to place stuff and just build things like this relatively quickly, it's all there. But the downsides, it was mentioned, is that yes, it is very easy to make a vessel, but a couple of things. Firstly, they end up just being a big flat plane with things on the top. okay, you could argue that, yeah, that is the case at this stage, but that's also very vulnerable. Secondly, there is no reason to, as far as I can tell, put engines on the different angles, so you just slam loads of engines on the back and you're just as maneuverable. That may not be the case, but either way, I've got no engines on the top or bottom, so this thing shouldn't be able to rotate up and down, but it can. Same as it can go and go clockwise and counterclockwise. But yeah, so that isn't in there as well. It's all in the aim of making it very simple to make ships. And there's no physical connections for things for, say, power or cooling or water. There is for transport. So for this transport ship, we have the habitat modules and we have to connect them with these pipes. But you don't have to run power conduits. Now, I'm not saying I want power conduits, but say, for example, this front of the ship gets sheared off here. Now, this obviously would be out of power and the whole thing would drift off. That's totally understandable. I get that. If you needed to run power, though, and say a big hole appeared here where your power conduit was, it would stop these guns from working. I think that would be quite an engaging mechanic. I'm not saying connect everything up, like, go back to Prison Architect. You don't have to connect lights up, you just have to get within a certain distance of it. So having, like, an armoured tunnel, like, you would plan ahead thinking, right, I need an armoured tunnel for where I put all my utilities and power or whatever. But I can understand that not being a thing. Why would you not just build a flat plane? Well, if you have, big explosions from rockets, it could damage modules based on a certain radius. So you'd want to make a ship that's quite thick or has multiple layers of defense and armor. So I could understand, that. But that's also based on, obviously, the enemies that you verse. What else as well, what was mentioned? Why wouldn't you make an every ship? So this is a minor. It also happens to have 4 miniguns and 4 lasers, and we've seen how effective that can be. Yes, it doesn't have any shield generators, but it wouldn't take... Oh no, it does have a shield generator. So it's a brick. It's a shielded, heavily armed, not armored though, but heavily armed mining and refining vessel. And I think that's why they said, yeah, well, that's a problem. It does everything. So that's that. Well, what could you do to fix it? Well, I'm going to come back to the mining stuff later on, but I've had all of my fun with this mission manager. I think the game revolves around this. Not just the moment-to-moment flying around and blowing stuff up and having fun, but it'll say assist in skirmish. Right, I need to build a combat ship. But there's also escort missions, or convoy missions, or ships. For example, one of the best ones I had was, I think it was it might have been an escort mission. And I came to the realization that this is a fleet game where you can't create a fleet. Because there was 3 or 4 fighters attacking a convoy. I had made a ship that had only 2 laser cannons on it. It was pathetic. But there was a gunship on our side. And the transport ship was getting... it was getting very violently disassembled, shall we say. And it was an unscheduled and unwarranted disassembly. It was getting shot at by a lot of fighters. And I was trying to help it out. And I was coming in quite hot. And I went, oops. And I wanged straight in the side of it like that. Okay? And you might think that's bad. But my shield was then covering that ship. And I just used my little turrets to plink away at all of the enemies, and then eventually the gunship took them out. And I thought, right, what if I could create a fleet? What if I could say, right, I want a ship that's very fast, lightly armed, well, no armor, no weapons, but has shield generators. Its job is to charge towards a target, clamp onto the side with mag clamps, and that would protect that target while the slower other ships come in. But that's where there's no limitation. I could bring... For this assist in a skirmish, I could bring Battlestar Galactica, I could bring the Enterprise, I could bring, any amount of ships that I wanted to these missions. I would say, ideally, you would want a points-based system for this. So it'd be like, right, this is assist in skirmish. You've got 2,000 points. So each block in the game has a certain value. We make this ship here. That could be, say you put that together and it's 500 points. Yeah, you can make an every ship, but that's 2,000 points. You've spent all your points on one ship. But if you made sensible decisions and be very frugal and tailor it to a certain mission and build ships specifically for different tasks, then you could say, right, I've got some ships to go there and defend the target. Some, if for example you were trying to rescue civilians while it's under fire, you want something to put up like a barrier, some shields or some flak or some other defences to protect the lightly armoured transport while you go over there. That obviously requires you being able to build a fleet and obviously AI to control the ships and, you know, perhaps give them orders. But yeah, having a points system in the mission manager would work. And maybe not even a hard cap. Like, it's assistant skirmish, 2,000 points. Go over that, you just get paid less. So if you wanted to fling, you know, 4 Romulan warbirds at at one little Delta flyer, well, I guess actually Delta flyer would kick everything because it's a Delta flyer. But anyway, I digress. What I'm trying to say is a massive pile of warships versus a small fighter. You could do that, but you're just not going to get paid. I think that's where this game is. I honestly think that's where you could get a lot out of it. The objective is to check the missions out, build a fleet for it, and work on that. Now, obviously, that, as I said, requires you to have limitations and being able to build fleets and put them together. I think another downside that was mentioned as well was that you could spend, say, 3 hours building a ship for it to just go off and blow up. Well, that's true. But as long as you can save the designs of the ship, who cares? As long as it can limp back and you can repair it automagically with a repair yard or something, or just rebuild it, just print the plans off if you have the resources, then go for it. And that's where my thinking basically takes me. And we come back to the mining, and I go, yeah, it takes a smarter person than me to figure out how that would work with that one, because you'd be setting all of this up to then get into the fighting side of it. I don't know how it would gel. Maybe if you had to take over their other systems in order to get certain rare resources and protect that and protect these things, yeah, fair enough. But I could spend however long mining these out. I assume these have a yield. Nah, it says unlimited yield by that one. But if these had a unlimited yield, you could just build a huge platform reaching that over there and just do everything you want in one go. I assume, however, these would run out and you would have to move things, hence the mining ship. But yeah, I think there's many ways that you could go with this one, and as I said right at the start, it's very difficult to discuss which way the prototype could go and what you could do with it. But yeah, my take on it is that the fun is with this mission manager, building stuff around, very much similar to how I play airships, whereas you get different scenarios, different ships, different enemies, and you have to best them with the points and ships under your command. But there's been some epic times when I've just jumped in and I've seen fighting in the distance, and the shots taking 3 or 4 seconds to go from one ship to the other, and explosions in the distance and bits going off, and you get there, and you're finally in combat, and it's like you get some epic moments in it. And even this is a prototype. I've played early access games. There's less in it than this, and that's I think that's, well, a damning on early access titles, but also a compliment to Introversion and Chris especially, who's, you know, been able to knock this together in, I assume, quite a short amount of time. But yeah, overall, I think this is probably in the top 3 of the prototypes, if not at the top now. Really hope this is a contender for continuation. Like I say, being able to build fleets and stuff, send in for missions, that sort of thing, I think where the heart of this lies at this stage. The mining stuff, you could probably remove it, and I wouldn't really care too much. But if that was tied together with taking over systems and getting rare resources, or if the resources run out, whatever, yeah, it would be fairly cool. Even if you're not set in a particular system, maybe you have this ship and this is what you have to protect, and if you lose that, you die. Either way, hope you have enjoyed this little look at Praxis. If you have any suggestions for perhaps what could be altered, changed, improved, ways you think the design could be pushed in terms of not just the moment-to-moment of the flying and the building and what systems you think might be added, but also the focus of the game, whether you start with a small economy and build up with the mining, or whether you skip that and you just get, you know, the ability to just print ships and work on what your thoughts and feelings are on it. And constructive criticism is very much welcomed, and put them in the comments, and you know, if anyone reads them that is able to, or really wants that feedback, then it's there and we'll get a bit of a discussion going. But yeah, overall, Praxis, probably the top 3 of the prototypes so far, probably in the top. Really hope this is contender for progressing on and we see more of it. But even for what it stands, it's still a fun, good couple of hours, and it's not exactly an ugly game. And quite characterful. I like whether these are different colours but also different sizes as well. It's almost like the Portal turrety type thing. You can imagine have a, a sense of humour, these guns. A bit morbid. Anyway, I'm not going to continue on much more because we're getting quite long on this video. Either way, I hope you have enjoyed this look at Praxis. Links in the description for the store page as well as the Introversion video where they detail much more succinctly and also in more detail what they were working on with this one and why they ceased it, etc. And also their thoughts on where they thought the game was going to go. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, then by all means pop them in the comments there. Either way, hope you have enjoyed this look at the game. Thanks very much for watching. Take care and generic partings.